any board members for the minutes of the last meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the minutes be approved.
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye. Sorry, that was trying to get in on the end of that.
Sorry, Mr. Perry. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, Nathan, now I'm ready for the first thing. I hear you, Nathan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The first item is RZ 2101 Poplar Industrial. It was a request by Urias Hernandez for a rezoning from residential high density R7 to light industrial I1. The property had previously unopened right of way to the south and unopened right of way to the east. The parcel currently has a narrow access off of Webb Avenue. The stated reason for the rezoning is to permit an automotive painting and body shop. Staff has recommended approval of this not as light industrial, but as B2 general business. It's more in keeping with the general character of the neighborhood and would preclude some outside storage and other things from this residential/commercial area.
Thank you. Is the applicant here tonight?
I think they raised their hand as one of the attendees.
Jeff, if you'd bring him on.
All right, you've been unmuted. Go ahead.
He's still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can. Please
Okay.
state your name and address for the record.
It's Kevin and Gabriel. We are at 1322 New Garden Road.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We'd like to hear your plan, sir.
So basically what we want to do is build a body shop. I saw that when we were filling out the application to have a painting booth, we needed to apply for an I1, an I2, or a conditional one. Would this change of zoning usage to a B2 allow us to actually paint, or is this just for body work?
Nathan, if you could.
I'll check on that while we're engaging in other questions, but my original understanding was that the site would be used for 100% indoor work,
Yeah.
which is permitted in the B2 district. I'll check about the painting.
Thank you,
Okay.
Nathan.
But yeah, the paint booth, as you said, would be indoors. So if the B2 does allow for that, then that should be fine for us.
Could you meet the indoor storage requirements and not store stuff on the outside? Could you meet that requirement?
We should be able to. As it stands right now, there's only one employee. So if we do build, it's going to be 4 bays for a car, which means we're only going to be using one at a time. So that shouldn't be a problem. And if there's more than 4 cars, then that would definitely be a backup of business. So that wouldn't be ideal for us. So yeah, we should be able to do that. No problem.
Okay. Any questions from board members?
Yes, sir. I have a few. To the applicant, sir, you have minimal access off of Webb Avenue, very steep hill running up into that particular area. Are you going to access that from the side, and do you have enough room to come in from a right or left side?
The idea is to use Webb Avenue as our entry point. From what I've seen, it should be wide enough for us to pull a car in. It shouldn't really be a problem because we don't plan on doing, large commercial vehicles. It's mainly just like sedans, maybe small trucks, and that's really about it.
Well, you made a statement that you were going to have 4 bays. That's why I was asking that question. Are you going to have one entrance into the building or 4 separate entrances?
So there's 4 garage doors going into the building. There is one leading to the paint booth. One should be for a frame machine and 2 that are just open.
The frame booth, the painting booth takes up quite a lot of room. You have access to outside storage, as the chairman mentioned a while ago. A lot of materials have to be stored safely in order to have a actual paint booth there, correct?
Yes, there has to be, from what I understand, a blast booth just to keep paints in a safe location in case of any fires. That should be stored behind the office. There should be more than enough space. If you were to look at the plans, it should be all the way to the right of the building. So there should be more than enough space to actually have these materials stored for safety.
And you're talking total metal building, correct?
Yes.
This structure that you're proposing, is it something that is on a carport agenda, or is it actual foundation type building with a slab?
This would be a concrete slab foundation.
And what type building other than metal, the carport type, or what?
Could you clarify that a little bit, please?
Well, carports are basically a unit that can be set on a concrete slab, but it's not a permanent building, so to speak.
As far as I know, it shouldn't be a carport. So
Okay.
yeah.
You're talking about like a Butler building,
Sorry, can you say that again? You got cut off.
like a Butler building.
Not sure what that is,
They're-
but possible.
They're metal buildings.
Oh yeah, in that case, yes, that's exactly what it
Erect a steel frame and then set it in metal siding.
is. That is it.
Is this particular building going to be constructed to where it is permanently bound to the concrete slab?
Absolutely.
By what means, do you know?
No, I don't know. That would be something I would have to ask the contractor who's making the building.
Have you contacted these contractors, sir?
No, we don't have a contract with them quite yet, but we have a vague idea whom we might be using for this.
Are they a local business, sir?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'm concerned that with the building itself, not that that it can't contain a painting booth. I have no problem with that. It's just what type of building that he is proposing.
Yes, sir.
No further questions this time, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Perry?
Chair Ward,
Yes.
to respond to the first question, vehicle assembly, painting, upholstering, rebuilding, reconditioning with body and fender work is not allowed in the B2. However, body and fender repair conducted within a completely enclosed building is permitted in the B2. So it would be permitted here. He could not do any sort of painting outside, but he would be able to do that work inside the structure with the B2 zoning.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, thank you, Nathan.
Mr. Perry?
All right. Well, I think that my perspective on this is obviously I have the same concerns. I know there's a lot of folks out in the out in the country that think I just want people to live on top of each other. But my concerns are anything verging on industrial in the city is going to affect the livability of it for residents on the residential side. That doesn't mean all industrial, in my opinion, should be elsewhere, but the last house that I lived in here in Graham was around a body shop, and at night they had a mud pit with a pit bull in it that would bark and just carry on all night because it would be a watchdog. And during the day or until 9 o'clock at night, if it was nice outside, you'd be hearing noise and things going on. So it sounds like B2 is a good compromise, but even that I'm still a little sensitive to as far as how much impact will this have on residential standard of living?
If I can answer that question, we don't have a dog, so that's at least a plus on that front.
Absolutely.
And if we are going to be working, it would be from 8 to 5. We do have church in Greensboro, so that's at 7. So there's a hard cutoff for us at 5, and that's, every day. So there's really no way for us to actually work after hours, and even on the weekend, it's not going to be on Sundays, and it would be from possibly 8 to maybe 1 at 2 at the latest on Saturdays. But after that, there's a hard cutoff for our own personal time.
That was my concern. Thank you.
It's all indoors though, right?
Yes, it is.
Will the property be fenced?
We're not planning to have anything outside. So if we have to, sure. But if not, we don't plan on having anything outside to have it. But if I can ask, what kind of fencing would you like if we were to actually need a fence?
I was just curious. A lot of places start off innocent and pristine, and then there's a fence, and then they're storing cars, and then they got a whole bunch of stuff out there. Then they're gonna get a dog.
No, it's like that's not a worry. I have mine at home. She's not going anywhere.
Well, these aren't home dogs. They're junkyard dogs.
Oh no, I don't think I can have one of those.
Well, you answered my question, and one of my questions was the hours of operation. You said that would be 8 to 5.
Yes.
Another concern I had, I know a lot of paints and paint thinners are hazardous material there. And I think you said you're going to store this product inside. Is that correct?
Yes. Each of the paint booths we're looking at are filtered, so a lot of that should be cleared out before it actually goes inside the building, and then outside of the building should be a bit more of a filtering on there. But none of it could be, sprayed directly outside where someone can actually breathe that in.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all.
Mr. Chin.
I'm just looking at his schematic. So this is going to be a commercial grade, all steel building with internal, he's got 2 bathrooms. So one of the 4 bays is the paint booth. The other 3 are to be used for prepping vehicles. How much of the outside is going to be hard surface?
The current plan isn't to have a hard surface. Since we're not storing anything outside, it would actually just be probably gravel driveway just to park my personal vehicle for when I get there. And maybe someone who's picking up their car, but that's really about it.
Yes, sir, Nathan.
Mr. Chin, all of that would be reviewed by the stormwater engineer as well as the public works director to determine how that all interfaces with our existing infrastructure. That's all covered by the TRC's review process.
Okay.
further, Mr. Chin?
Have no further questions.
Nathan, just for clarification, as far as in our agenda package, did y'all send out a updated agenda package? Because I'm looking at staff's recommendations on this package and I'm seeing something totally different than what I think I heard you say when you opened.
If you look at the first page of the staff report, it should say denial. And then the last page has two sections. It includes the location may be suitable for the general business district, and then has a recommendation.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for the clarification. I don't have any further questions for the applicant. One last time, anybody else have any more questions for the applicant? Thank you. All right, I'll open it up to anyone in the audience that would like to speak about this particular agenda item.
Chair Ward, there is one phone caller. If we could remind them to press *9 to raise their hand, and then *4 if they wish to unmute if they do desire to speak for this item.
Okay. Again, folks, if you would like to speak tonight concerning this item, please contact Preston Jenkins at 336-347-8674 for support. And *9 will get you to where you need to be, and *4 will unmute you. Jeff, if you would, let's go ahead and take the phone caller that you have there and unmute them.
They didn't have their hand raised. Do you want me to unmute them?
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
Okay. I don't have anybody right now, sir, that are wishing to speak.
Okay. All right, I'll open it up for discussion amongst board members. I think we've all pretty much said what our thoughts were, and there's no need to rehash it unless you got something new. If anybody's got something new, let's hear it.
I don't see, Nathan, Mr. Page, I've got two of the recommendation, and I don't see anything beyond that. Or is there another application?
On the bottom of page 2 of 2, which is page 5 of your agenda packet, it says staff recommends denial and has a following supports that recommendation. The next indention paragraph, whatever, says, however, the location is suitable for the general business district, which would permit this use without the possibility of outdoor storage, with the following that would support that recommendation.
Okay, I see it. I'm sorry. However.
No further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I'll jump in there and make a motion that this location is suitable for general business district and would permit the use without possibility of outdoor storage in accordance with Graham 2035 plan, strategies 1.1.5 and 2.3.1, and policy number 3.1.2.
Thank you, Mr. Chrisman. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Chair Ward, if I may, Mr. Chrisman, there was no recommended zone there. Was that the B2?
B2.
Yes, general business district, yeah.
Thank you for
And without the possibility of outdoor storage.
Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Chrisman. I have a proper motion. Do I hear a second? I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? I will poll each one of you if you don't mind. Mr. Chin,
Aye.
Mr. Benesh,
Aye.
Mr. Chrisman,
Aye.
Mr. Bailey,
Aye.
and I vote aye myself. Next thing, Nathan.
Yes, sir, Chair Ward. The next item is RZ 2102 Shakori Hills, a request by Waleed Nicola for rezoning from medium density R15 to medium density R12. It is a request to rezone the subject property. The property is currently wooded. It was originally approved as a neighborhood in the 1990s, but went through a subsequent development phase in 2006. At this time, the developer is requesting a rezoning to R12 without a stated reason. This site is already within the city of Graham's limits.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak on this?
I think the applicant is also present.
I thought I saw his name there, Dr. Nicola.
One
Okay,
at this time. Well, we've got one, Mr. Chairman.
please unmute him.
Okay. You've been unmuted. Go ahead.
Sir, if you
Hey,
would,
my name is Waleed Nicola. I'm the managing member of the LLC that owns the property. And the reason we're asking to rezone it is it's less expensive to, develop smaller lots than it is. We have a national builder that's interested in developing the property if we can get it rezoned to R12.
Mr. Nicola, would you please state your address, please?
Yes, it's 204 Windrift Drive, Gibsonville, North Carolina.
Thank you very much, sir. Any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, I have one.
I have a question.
Go
Is
ahead,
it
Mr.
going to
Chair.
be developed as single-family homes
Mm.
or townhouses or?
I don't know what R12 allows, but I think there's, they were talking about, using the topography of the property to be able to put some houses closer together to create some green space in the difficult areas.
Chair Ward, do you want me to address that?
Please.
Mr. Chin, the R12 doesn't allow any townhomes or apartments or anything like that. It's all single family detached. There are some exceptions to that, but those exceptions also exist in the R15. For example, you could put in a fire substation or a city park or a utility substation. Those uses would be permitted in the R15 and the R12. No townhomes, no apartments.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have no problem. We'd like to get things to R12. If we could get more houses in there and keep it at R12, I'm all for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chrisman. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the applicant, have you had a chance to speak with any of the adjoining landowners about your rezoning request?
I haven't talked with anybody.
Okay.
Mr. Bailey?
Thank you. No further question.
I have no comment.
And Mr. Perry? Okay. That's all the questions for the applicant. Jeff, we'll take the next person. Got their hand up?
Elvin, you've been unmuted. State
No
your name and
questions.
address for the record, please.
No questions.
He's muted again, Jeff.
Can you hear me?
We can, ma'am. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Evelyn Deloach, 1314 Akanichi Trail, Graham, North Carolina.
Thank you, ma'am. Welcome.
Well, we were just wondering, none of the homeowners have been notified from Mr. Nicola. And we are a little upset because we need a little bit more information in terms of exactly what he's planning on doing. We all moved in here, paid good money, and we have expectations as to how this was supposed to progress. And of course, over the last couple of years, it hasn't progressed at all. And now all of a sudden we have a rezoning. And
Yes, ma'am.
so we'd like Mr. Nicola to address that issue. As well as we also have some things that were promised to the homeowners that are here now that were not done. And all of a sudden, here we are looking at now reducing the lot sizes and the sizes of the homes.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Nicola? Please, Jeff, unmute him.
Okay, I wasn't aware that I was, I should have been an ambassador and contacted people and asked questions about it, but I wasn't aware that I needed to contact the homeowners to ask their permission. And I assumed that this would be the venue for them to ask questions about it. Right now, the lots that are there are zoned R15, and I don't know if it gets rezoned or even if it's not rezoned. I don't know what the traffic pattern would be, or what the lots would look like, or what the houses would look like.
Are we still unmuted?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
can hear you.
Okay. Well, I personally feel that some of that information needs to be given to somebody before there is an agreement to rezone.
So what did you specifically want to know?
Wait just a minute. Wait just a minute.
Mhm.
Mr. Loach, if you have some questions, please address those to the board, and then we will ask Mr. Nicola. I don't want to go back and forth.
No,
So-
I wasn't addressing that to him. I was addressing that to the board.
Okay, can I get that question again, ma'am, please?
Go ahead.
You were asking what exactly? There's two people here on this call. I live across the street at 1311 Akanachi Drive.
Please state your name.
Roberts.
Please state your name again.
Vicky, V-I-C-K-Y Roberts.
Okay.
And what we were asking is what he just stated he wasn't sure what the homes were going to look like. Well, we paid good money for our homes. We've kept up our properties. We bought it in here with the intentions of how it was and how safe it was. Since we've been here 12 years. None of the properties that he's talking about has been kept up. We mow it, we cut trees back, we do the leaves. We've done it all. So now he's sitting here and I'd like to ask you, can he put a modular home in here? My house, it would destroy the value of our homes here. We've worked hard over here, and that's why we moved here into Graham.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, it's our job as the planning board to determine whether things meet zoning. As far as what he will be willing to do and what he's not doing, that's out of our control. Nathan, could you answer the question on the modular house for her, please?
Yes, sir. So both R15 and R12 allow homes that meet the North Carolina Building Code. Under state statute, we're not allowed to differentiate based on design or materials or size, those were removed from us. If you disagree with that, then I would suggest that you reach out to Senator Amy Galey or a Representative Dennis Riddell or Ricky Hurtado. Those are the state representatives who have said that the city does not have any authority to dictate the condition of a home that meets the North Carolina Building Code as long as it's a single family detached home. So the applicant could currently, or anyone could currently put a modular home on any of the lots in those, in that subdivision under the R15 or the R12.
Thank you, Nathan.
Evelyn Deloach, 1314 Akanichi Trail again. And I was wondering if he is going to give more in-depth information as to what is actually going to be planned if it is changed from R15 to R12.
I will see if I can get that answered for you, Mr. Loach, if he knows what he's got in the works or if he's willing to share that information with us.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
So, yeah, we can't develop the property anymore, so we're going to try to sell it to a firm that's able to develop it. And we can't tell them how to do it, but they're going to invest a lot of money in the development of the property. And I'm sure that they're going to want to protect their investment.
Thank you, Mr. Nicola.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Christmas.
I have a question for Nathan. We're looking at 33 acres and it's already zoned R15. How many additional houses can be put back there if it goes to R12?
I don't have a number for you. That's an engineering question. There is significant topography on the site, as well as a sewer easement that runs down the middle of it, and some power lines through the back. The original approval, let me see if I can pull that up.
How many square feet in an acre?
43,560.
Yep, 43,560.
I'm going to do math in public here. Y'all stand back.
The original approval was for 94 homes. I suspect that they'll actually have less total homes than that in this development due to the fact that that didn't include riparian buffers and the like that are now needing to be protected. This is from quite some time ago.
Mr. Page, can you clarify for the audience what quite some time ago is?
So this predates when I was hired by the city, so it's more than 7 years old. The file that I have it in was a previous system of tracking, so it didn't have the numbering system that I use, which indicates that it wasn't my predecessor, so probably sometime prior to 2008.
So during the housing bubble, it was greenlit to have 90 some odd homes in it. Since then, we've refined environmental and other things, or not approved, but submitted. Is that where it was?
It was prior to that. It could have been done in 2000, 2001, 2002.
Gotcha. So in that case, since then, precautions and protections of things and runoff have increased. So the buildable area has obviously shrunk from what was in that. That's what you had just clarified, correct?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
So in effect, I'm just trying to establish that it's been kind of destined or moving this direction since at least the early 2000s.
Absolutely. I think the expectation was always for 90 something homes in this area, and I cannot imagine a layout for this location that would get more than that many lots in here due to the additional environmental constraints that have subsequently occurred.
And at 12,000, in R12, you're looking at 3.6 houses per acre.
In a perfect world without public right of way.
Right.
Okay, Jeff, let's hear from Roland Roberts.
Sir. Roland, you've been unmuted. State your name and address, please.
Roland Roberts, 1311 Akanachi Drive. My basic question is this, is that our lots, the lots that currently exist in the currently developed area have some deed restrictions on them, good deed restrictions. The question is, will those deed restrictions be placed on these lots, the new lots as well? Because that will help solve some of the issues that was brought up by you might as well know that was my wife talking earlier, along with my neighbor. Those issues, and a lot of this is based on concern, as my wife said, is that this is an incident I know it has nothing to do with rezoning, but it has to do with the fact of what's going on. Is when we first moved in, there were some very nice streetlights out there, and one of them was at the corner of our property. And then some years ago, they came in, removed them all, and put in some, I'll call them generic lights, and my property now has none. So now my property, which sits in the middle of the road, is pitch black at night. Now, fortunately, right now it's very safe, so it's not an issue. But I mean, those are the kind of things that have changed that makes us question this move from R15 to R12. So that's what drew my question about, will the deed restrictions that are, I'd like to see deed restrictions that are similar to what we have for these other properties as well.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. If I will hear Evelyn one more time.
Say that again, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I will hear Evelyn one more time. Please unmute her.
Yes, sir. Evelyn, you've been unmuted.
She's still muted.
This is not necessarily a question, but in answer, one of you had asked that question. It was 90-some plus homes originally. We've lived here for 25 years. And so those were in place at the time that we bought our property. 90-some plus homes were supposed to be built at that time.
Thank you, ma'am. Nathan, in the original approval for that subdivision, was that all platted, that whole property platted as one parcel, or was it subdivided for multiple phases?
It was phased.
It was phased. Okay. Okay, if there's no more questions from the audience, I'll open it up for discussion from the panel.
Could we ask one of the owners of who live on Anachi Trail, what's an example of the deed restrictions that was imposed on them?
Chair Ward,
Nathan,
you want me to address that one?
I do.
Mr. Chin, the deed restrictions are private covenants for private individuals that private homeowners are enforced by the private industry. The city of Graham doesn't enforce doesn't get involved in, doesn't interpret, doesn't engage in or deal with homeowners' covenants. It's not the government's responsibility to discuss what color your gutters should be or whether or not you should have 6 windows on the facade of your house.
Okay. So it's basically a homeowners association.
Station.
Yes, sir.
That if you moved into that subdivision, you fell under the purview of the homeowners association associated with it.
And it's not clear if that HOA still exists and or it still binds the existing property or not. That's something that is the private companies, the private industries, the private homeowners' responsibility to figure out.
Okay, I understand completely.
Yeah.
I lived in a subdivision with an HOA, so, okay, I'd never heard it described in those terms. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you your opinion and maybe Nathan's, if it's correct to ask the owner of the property who is trying to or have this rezoning from 15 to 12 be based on or contingent upon the fact of keeping 94 homes on that property, and in doing so that would be part of the reason he has to sell, not sell, but the agreement he may have with the buyer in order to be able to put the same amount of homes, so you'd have to reduce the size of the lots.
Nathan, would you address that?
Yes, sir. If it was a conditional rezoning, we could absolutely do that and have a facade restriction or something like that. But as it's a straight rezoning, the only thing that we can do is say whether or not the R12 is in keeping with the future land use plan or not.
Thank you, Nathan.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? I find it hard to support this without more information and without the homeowners being talked to prior to coming in here. And I certainly don't want to vote something down that may potentially be a good project for Graham, but I would certainly have liked to seen the developer communicate with the homeowners before coming before this board. And it's just too vague right now for me to think that it would meet the R15 requirements with the very little information that's being provided by Mr. Nicola. I'm not saying that it can't meet it. I'm just saying it's too vague right now. That's just my take on it at this point.
I look at it, Mr. Chair, that he's just trying to sell the land and to make it more attractive to a potential buyer to have it R12 instead of R15, to increase the potential of having more home sites on the property. And if it was,
Yeah, that's it. In a nutshell, basically.
Yeah, which is make it more attractive for sale. And if at one time there could be 94 homes, they could have started grading tomorrow and not have to come before us at all, or not to talk to any homeowner. So I mean, they could have been in there, with erosion barriers and going to town on it as we speak. So we've got a heads up here. To ask what the development plans are when we don't have a buyer yet, I think is a stretch.
Well, I don't totally disagree with some of what you're saying there, Mr. Chrisman. I'm just, this board and council has done some things with some properties in reduction in size over the past few months. It's just amazing, from going from R18 to R7,000 for 7,000 square foot lots and stuff like that. And I just, it's too vague for me to support it at this point. I'm not saying that you guys may not support it, but it's just too vague. Anyone else?
So if the current owner sells it to whoever this national developer is, that developer still has to come for us with their proposed plan, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Chen, true. However, with the rezoning makes it more attractive as someone that would be more or less hesitant to buy it if they know they can put more houses in a smaller area. As the chairman is saying, the vagueness of it is the gray area.
I feel like there's a need to remember that there's property rights and use by right in this, and how drastically different is R15 from R12. And does that perversely alter the intention of this development? I don't believe that's the case. And I know that there's HOA stuff. We may be able to just talk about that, and to part of me wants to agree with Dean on this, and that is that every time this comes up, yeah, he shouldn't have to clear it with his neighbors. He's a landowner. He's going through the governmental process. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but that's the process for our government, and that's how that works. But with, and I know it stinks to be surprised. Living in town, I get surprised often. So I hear what everybody's saying that's opposing it, but really, I think now that regulations have tightened up development, we're not really changing the scope. I understand that they've been surprised. I understand that they're offended. I understand that they've probably gotten used to looking at a wooded lot, and that's not nice to consider all the traffic, all the things that everybody brings up at every one of these, that you're taking nothing and you're putting people in it. And I didn't want people there. And so I support it as a generality, but I don't know the navigation process for the existing abandoned development, to how to integrate it. And I don't know to what extent that's our job. And that might be a question for both Dean and Mr. Page. In general, I'm ready to probably vote it up. But at the same time, I also want the existing community to not feel disenchanted from the city of Graham and from the new developer. I don't know how to really play matchmaker when the developer hadn't really got in the ring yet. So,
Well,
Nathan, can I ask you what the size of the lots are in the adjoining properties? The average size?
Immediately to the north is R7. So there's some lots that are zoned for 7,000 square feet there. Immediately to the south is, there were lots that were originally platted with well and septic. And so those lots are a little bit larger, but I believe the city subsequently ran in water and sewer. I think that was the Cooper Estates extension in 2004-ish. And so some of those lots are in these same spots where they could subdivide into multiple lots now that water and sewer have been extended there. But to the south, they're still zoned R18. To the east, you have a massive lot, one of the largest lots in the city, but that's the city's wastewater treatment plant. And it's the intention of the city to leave wooded area around that as thickly as possible, as much as possible, as long as possible, because I haven't met anybody that likes to look at a wastewater treatment plant yet.
Thank you, Nathan. How many houses approximately are in that R7 area?
It's not yet built out. It could apply at any time. Like this one, they could apply for an erosion control permit tomorrow. But I believe it's got something like 6 or 7 in there right now.
Thank you, Nathan. The R12 doesn't create much of a problem when you're putting it next to an R15. However, it is a lot smaller against an R18. But then again, as you mentioned, the R7 lots, which have not yet been totally developed, and then of course the waste treatment plant. The property is surrounded with all aspects of property size. The vagueness that Chairman Ward is talking about is the concern of many of us. However, I don't see where an R12 would be that negative of an impact on that property, considering with all the restrictions as Nate was mentioning a while ago, and also because of the layout of the land with the topography and of course the power lines and stuff, really does make that lot less attractive to anyone wanting to develop it. So I'm feeling that he may have a buyer if he could get it rezoned to R12, which would make it more attractive. That's the feeling I've got.
Nathan, if this stayed at the R 15 that it is, would it still be permittable to put townhouses, duplexes, and small scale multifamily dwellings in this neighborhood?
That's not approvable under R15 nor under R12.
Thank you. Anything, anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I've got a statement I'd like to make. If we go from a R15 to a R12, based on Mr. Chrisman's math there, we're looking at 3.6 homes per acre. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Roughly. Okay, that's all I got.
And important to note that that's in a perfect world, as Mr. Page added a little caveat to that, and that means flat land with 0 lot lines.
Right, and I know about the 0.6 there. I don't know about a house with the 0.6. So probably looking at about 3 per acre there. So,
and in that region, everywhere along the ETJ, it's pretty safe to assume that it's jagged cliffs or creekside. I mean, all of it kind of bumps up against that whole, waterway system. So
yeah,
it's probably 80%. I don't know. Mr. Page probably has a real number for it. It feels like to me when we see these lots, it's between 60 and 80% of it is actually developable, and the rest of it's tied up in some way.
Anyone else?
Certainly lots in this subdivision, as it was originally drawn as that 94, which you could develop, but you could also, each one of us could move our house 5 feet back on our existing lot. It would also be a lot.
Dynamite.
Any further questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Looks like Mr. Chrisman is trying to tell us something.
Yeah, but I was muted, but I'm unmuted now. So if no one else, I'll do the honors. For the Graham 2035 Comprehensive Plan, policy 3.3.2 and strategy 4.3.1. I make a motion that we approve the change in lot size. So an article from R15 to R12.
Thank you, Mr. Crispin. Do I hear a second?
Second.
second.
Thank you, thank you, Nate. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. I'll poll each one of you. Mr. Crispin,
Aye.
Mr. Bailey,
Aye.
Mr. Benesh,
Aye.
Mr. Ken. Mr. Ken,
Oh, aye.
Mr. Crispin.
Good make on.
I'll vote twice now.
I just want to make sure I heard you right. You said aye, and
Aye, aye.
and I opposed it.
And I didn't oppose it.
And I was coming, and Nate did not oppose. So it's 4-1.
5-1.
5-1. I'm sorry, 5-1. Okay, Nathan.
Yes, sir, Chair Ward. The only other item is the 160D update, and I received the comments from the attorneys after I sent out the packet. I'm going through them. They're very, very minor, and I'll have them. What I'll do is send that out as soon as possible to y'all to start reviewing again. I'll probably have that to you sometime next week, and then we'll have a meeting in March where we'll go over those in front of the public with the public notice about 160D for all the questions and comments and such.
Okay. And also, just for board members' reference, you can go to the Institute of Government's website, and there are some good videos there pertaining to the 160D, broken down in several sections. I don't know if you've seen them yet, but there are plenty of videos there that may help with this process.
That's 100% true, except for it's called the School of Government now. It's not the Institute of Government. Just if you look for it, it's the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill School of Government.
Thank you.
So is that an upgrade?
Just to change the name. It's all the same. It's very good information.
Any other business that anyone would like to?
You mean we're not gonna go over this thing tonight? I went through 250 pages, this stuff.
Well, Mr. Chrisman, I'm gonna let you lead.
And I got pages of notes.
Well, Mr. Chrisman, I'm okay with it.
I'm way ahead of you for next month then, I guess.
I think Eric's breaking up. I can't hear him.
Mr. Chrisman, I'd be certainly glad to let you proceed on, and we can stay as long as you'd like.
Notes.
We'll catch it next month then. We'll catch it next month. Anybody else got anything else, business that they would like to bring up or talk about tonight before we move on? Okay, let's see what Miss Allen has to say.
All right.
Jeff, if you would unmute Miss Allen.
Good evening, y'all. Patty Allen, 265 West Shannon Drive, Graham. I was sincerely trying not to say anything again. I did want to share while listening that when y'all are discussing rezoning or similar like things, it sounds very unsavory to use words that express support specifically for a developer to purchase a piece of property. The board is in theory to work for its citizens, not specifically for the benefit of developers and the way in making things such that they can move along with their projects. Those are their challenges. And many of the developers coming into our area aren't even Alamance County or North Carolina even at this point. So I just wanted to encourage the board to please be thoughtful about your words, because it doesn't help y'all at all to sound like you're doing everything you can to make it possible to develop everything around. And it doesn't help the citizens feel comfortable with the decisions their governments are recommending and at council making for them. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Glad to hear from you tonight.
Yes, sir.
Anybody?
Yeah, I appreciate her comment, and I agree with what she said. Sometimes we get cavalier and try to think of, okay, how can we best help Graham grow? And that's what we're trying to do. Trying to think not only about what's happened tomorrow, but 20 years from now when we're all long gone. I just want to set a good pattern for the best land use possible.
Mr. Chrisman, when you say long gone, speak for yourself, sir.
I bought my leather shoes. Come on, man. It's so heavy, you go ahead and admit it.
Oh,
Nathan, you got anything for us? Anything else?
Yes, sir, Chair Ward. Just briefly, I'm not sure if the planning board has heard, but Frankie Manis, the city manager, has accepted a position closer to his family in Montgomery County. And Aaron Holland is currently serving as the interim city manager. I believe that Frankie is planning on leaving early next week to head down there. So if y'all had any words you wanted to pass on to him or anything, feel free to shoot me an email or shoot Frankie an email. He's been one of the most amazing people I've ever worked with in my whole life. Although I'm not as old as Mr. Chrisman.
And you got a lot of time left. You want to put Frankie's email out there? So if any of these board members would like to shoot an email to him, or would you like to email it to the board members?
Absolutely. I'll shoot it over to y'all.
Thank
Okay, thank you.
Okay, has anybody else got anything else?
just be safe come Thursday. I understand it's gonna get kind of rough Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, so those who have to, be careful when you go out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm kind of disappointed that we hadn't heard from Mr. Boney, but I guess we'll catch him next month. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll go for a hat
I'll
trick.
make that motion to adjourn.
And
That's so close. I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 See you, everybody.
Good night, guys.
Be safe.